guaranteed. Viewer discretion is advised.
And welcome back to Cars with the Macabre. Helen, how are you?
Oh, Allie, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Sorry, you've got haggard, Allie, because I've been at work all day and we've never filmed sort of on a weekday.
You don't look haggard, you look lovely.
But thank you.
Take the compliment, woman.
Very nerdy right now with my glasses on.
Fabulous.
Oh, thank you, darling, but you always say that.
It's because you always look fabulous.
Anyway, how's your week been?
Ugh.
I feel like that's a constant theme every time.
Just at the minute, it's just ugh. But I have found out, because we're doing spooky chats now, so I've been overloading myself with paranormal spooky news. So I found out loads of stuff this week.
Amazing.
So I thought I could pepper it into your case as well as spooky chats. So this is quite interesting. You know, Blumhouse Productions.
Yes.
Very, very famous. They are rebooting the Blair Witch Project.
No, fuck off, really?
Yeah, and so I listened to this. It's a podcast called Paranormal 60, and it is just 60 minutes of paranormal news.
Awesome.
And they were talking about this, and I was really having a proper in-depth think about it, because obviously when it was first released in 1999, people thought it was a real thing.
Well, because it was marketed that way.
It was marketed that way. They even had a documentary that went alongside it as part of the marketing.
Yes, wasn't that something... What was that called?
Oh, I can't remember. I'm going to try and find it, because I feel like we should watch it all again.
Yeah. Oh, please, can we?
Yeah, definitely.
That was I think, our first sort of horror... our venture into horror together was the Blair Witch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose neither of us was really oh, I'm into horror, separately, if that makes sense. No, that doesn't make any sense.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah. Not spooky bitches like we are now.
No, well, I was so young when I watched that with you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that was my first foray into, horror.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, I'm petrified. And now I'm like, psh.
Yeah, you like that now, nothing phases you.
Complete
but at
180.
the time, that was obviously they created it using found footage.
Yeah.
There was nothing else like that out there. So I love Blumhouse.
Yeah.
Absolute geniuses in the horror genre. But I'm we already know it's not true. So element of surprise is already gone. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with it.
Yeah, no, definitely, because it feels like it will have lost some of that unique substance that it had, with it being something so fresh and so brand new.
And people thought it was real.
Yeah, and that is just, everyone knows it's not real, and now that's taken away, so it's so it's just... yeah, and people have tried to copy that whole found footage thing.
Yeah.
And it just has never topped Blair Witch.
Well, that's the thing, and unless, because it was sold to us as, this is real, and they even kept the actors who were in it really out of the limelight until it was released.
Well, didn't they, do a lot of the things, a lot of the scares sort of, they weren't scripted or something like that? Or they weren't planned?
Possibly.
Well, they weren't aware of what was going to happen, so it's more of a visceral reaction. Could be, maybe.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how they do it. So that was quite a good bit of news. I thought I had to tell you that rather than waiting for a spooky chat, because it was very interesting.
I'm apprehensive about it though.
Me too.
Other film news. So there is a potential. Well, I read somewhere that there's a rumour that the new Scream, it's been spoken about that perhaps one or two of Sydney's kids could be the new Ghostface.
Ooh, interesting.
I don't know how that will work. I don't know, maybe there's a bit of a resentment there because she's kept them so protected, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I'm excited to see where they go with that, obviously, because, Ghostface.
That'll be good, and we should probably go to cinema to watch that.
Can it be one there's not a lot of people?
We should maybe just, hit out one of our lounges and just,
Can we watch all the screens?
Yeah, let's do that.
We can watch all the screens.
And we can get lots of, snacks and popcorn and have them in containers that don't make any noise.
Yes.
Allie.
Who I am as a person. So Mark's just Sydney's got kids. I was yeah, so she wasn't in the last Scream because of Hay dispute, Neve Campbell. So I think her character was spoken about, but the one before that, it's revealed that she married the detective from Scream 3 or 4, and they've got kids together, and sort of it took them away somewhere safe, that sort of thing, after Scream 5.
Yeah, I feel like we need to just watch them all and then watch the new one.
Yeah. Nothing is going to top Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich, though, for me.
Oh, Skeet Ulrich, yeah.
Right.
Good times. Well, there was some good
Sorry, Mark.
pop culture. Mark's like, hello, I'm right here.
Hi, you know the person you live with? Why do you look confused?
I like that we both had some like spoopy
Pop
culture news.
Do you know who says spoopy?
Who?
Elena and Ash from Orbit.
Ah, okay.
Speaking of which, I'm reading Elena's book, so she's got a new one out.
Yeah.
I think it's like a sequel to her first one, but I'm reading her first one.
Butcher and the Wren.
Yes.
I might borrow that after you and read it.
I think you can.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're most welcome.
Well, you're taking the reins today, babe.
I am. It is Allie-centric, so I'm going to apologise now because...
Why?
Words. Reading off a... Yeah.
Seriously, me. It's never going to be as bad as this illiterate person right here, so don't worry.
I don't know. It's been a day. Actually, no, to be fair, it hasn't. I'm not grumbling about today. It's been a good day.
Okay.
So, without further ado, shall I?
Yes, please.
Shall I?
I'm excited.
So this particular killer, there are 3 that go by the same moniker. There is Randy Kraft, Patrick Kearney, and the guy that I'm going to talk about, William Bonin. And they all go by the name The Freeway Killer, but they operated separately.
Okay.
So I think perhaps with some of my research, because there is a lot, definitely think it's going to be a 2-parter. I think maybe some information has got caught up, like from one of the others into it. So a lot of my sorry, I keep knocking the microphone.
That's right, it's because you're very excited.
So a lot of my research came from a documentary, which I'll talk about, Murderpedia, the Crime Library. There is a bit of Wikipedia in there as well, but whatever I read on there, I cross-referenced with something else.
So I always do.
Yes,
just double check
for the best. Okay, so 3 serial killers, but that went by the same nickname. But I'm going to talk about William Bonin. Mm-hmm. This guy is a massive asshole. He is one gaping sphincter.
Ew.
Honestly, he's horrendous. So, William George Bonin was born in, I want to say Willimantic, but I swear when I was listening to the documentary, they pronounced it Willimanty. But I'm not sure. So, someone correct me. It's in Connecticut, and he was born on January the 8th in 1947. He was born to Robert Leonard Bonin Sr. and Alice Dorothy Coate, but I also read her surname was also Benton. So again, I think there might be a bit of a mix-up there. He was the second of 3 sons, so he had an older brother and a younger brother. Both parents were alcoholics. So Robert Sr., he was a World War II veteran and an alcoholic. And I think to cope with his sort of ill temper and his physical abuse, Alice started to drink with that as well, just to sort of cope with what was going on. She suffered from severe mood swings and would often spend most of her time at a bingo parlour. The kids were neglected, they weren't fed, they were ill-clothed, left to fend for themselves, which is quite weird because later on, she sort of talks about her son after he's been caught and things like that, and it's not the kind of reaction that a mother who is neglectful would have, if that makes sense. His father was also a gambler, and at one point he did gamble the house away.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I think after that they went to go and stay with the maternal grandmother. Before that, I don't know if all of the sons or just 2 of the sons were sent to an orphanage. And there was a priest who reportedly sexually abused William.
Christ's sake.
So
Didn't have the best start then.
no. And you'll see sort of how it's quite a classic case of that nature nurture. And I think if you were swayed to more like nurture, this is quite a good argument for that. So during his 8th year, so when he was 8 years old, he was jailed. He was put into juvenile hall for stealing.
When he was 8?
Yeah. For stealing license plates. So the car thing starts early.
Yeah, good. Get it right in there.
And whilst he was there, an older boy approached him for sex. Now, William agreed as long as his hands were bound, so he was restrained so that he would feel less scared.
Oh, God.
So again, that's kind of like how abused was he? So his understanding of sex kind of came at a very young age. And that would have impacted sort of how he grew up with that, especially like sort of with his complicated feelings later on.
Exactly.
So records show that the older boy approached Bonin for homosexual contact, and Bonin was frightened, but Bonin agreed to it if the older boy would tie his hands behind his back, allowing him to feel more secure and less frightened. There is a neurologist who, when Bonin was imprisoned for the Freeway killings, his name is Dr. Jonathan Pincus, he said that incident is kind of suggests quite a lot about Bonin's childhood, and the fact that like at age 8, because he was so sexually aware and asked for restraints, led Pincus to believe that he had been a prior victim of sexual assault. Dr. Pincus said, "It is inconceivable that he was not sexually abused and forcibly restrained by adult abusers before." So that was a report to Bonin's lawyers. Until Bonin was sent to juvie for stealing license plates, the children... No, was it before then? But the children were left with their maternal grandfather, who was actually a known child molester.
Oh, this family sound amazing.
I know.
What a great start for him.
The thing is that his mother had actually been molested by him as well, so she knew it.
Oh my God.
She actually said, sort of later on, she speculated that he had molested his grandson, so it's not really surprising. If he's done it to you...
Yeah.
It's quite likely.
Come on, love. Come on.
In fact, he was known to be a molester. You're like, well, why would you put your children in that position? I mean, I don't know how desperate they were for like housing or anything like that at that time.
That's so difficult, isn't it? If the dad's gambled the house away.
Yeah.
I would imagine that, just surmising that they probably didn't have much choice.
I mean, this guy, like, you kind of feel bad for the child version of him as an adult because you always have a choice.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a big argument for the whole nurture side of things, but you can see how his mind could have got twisted.
Yeah, very easily.
If that makes sense. So William and his younger brother Paul, they were left with their older brother Robert. Now, Robert suffered supposedly the most from his father's abuse, so he would often then take that out on his younger siblings. Oh, so beating them, verbally abusing them.
It's like a vicious cycle, isn't it?
Yeah. After Bonin was released, when he was young, he actually sexually fondled his younger brother.
Oh my God.
And then started on other kids.
Oh, Jesus.
So Bonin did attend elementary school with his younger brother, but he earned the nickname Bugsy Bonin. I'm not quite sure whether it was like an appearance thing or not, but he, so he was kind of ostracised at school. His parents neglected him. Neighbours said they never saw the parents spending any time with the children at all, which is it's kind of heartbreaking because it's like things could have been so much different, maybe.
Yeah, I just think, why, if you're going to be like that to your children, well, don't have children.
Well, exactly, yeah.
Don't have kids. You have a choice.
I mean,
don't have any.
I'm not quite sure what the dad was like before he went to war or anything like that, whether he was like not that way inclined, like abusive or violent or anything like that. And it was war itself, because, you know, that kind of thing is going to have such a huge impact on you. He probably had some sort of PTSD and developed some sort of mental health illness potentially from seeing all of that.
Yeah.
And obviously you didn't get that kind of help back then for that sort of thing.
They wouldn't really even talk about it, would they? So.
No. There was a 6th grade classmate of Bonin's that it was said in the documentary that like she wrote a letter, and it would say that the boys, so Bonin and his brothers, they would dig potatoes from a neighbour's garden and eat them unwashed and raw because they were so hungry. He was smart but didn't talk much, and he was made fun of for his ill-fitting clothes and shoes, but he never fought back, but you could always see the hurt in his eyes. He was thought of as a gentle but very sad soul who never tried to harm anyone.
Oh my God, that makes it even worse.
I know.
And again, it's like the whole thing of you saying the whole nature versus nurture thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe he could have been all right if he'd have just had a proper upbringing.
Well, this is the thing as well. So when he went to middle school, he had a really strong aptitude for like maths and science. Everything else was not great, but you know, he had those kinds of talents. And if that's what he was like as a child, he could have grown into be something. He could have made something of himself.
Yeah. This might be a bit too early on in the story to ask, but did either of his brothers go on to commit any nefarious things?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, I guess it would have said, because it's just, obviously, they've been experiencing the same thing, so it's interesting to see if he's the only one that went on to...
I think I would have really liked to have read like a book. If I had the time, I would have liked to have read a book about this, because like I said, when I was trying to research, there was lots of things that I ummed and ahed about, whether it was sort of definitive information and trustworthy information.
Yeah.
There's a lot about it, but because I think there are 3 serial killers with the same...
It gets mixed up.
Yeah. So in late 1960, the family faced foreclosure, and this is when William's mum actually kicked out the father, and she had custody of the children. They did, when his father was then offered a job as a machinist in Downey, California, they did reconcile and they got back together. So in early 1962, they purchased a home in Torrance, and that's where they went to live, and where William then attended high school. Again, he was regarded as a social outcast, but his younger brother, Paul, did say sort of later that he was outwardly well behaved as a teenager. He was uncomfortable around his friends and sort of peers, things like that. Well, I say friends, probably didn't really actually have any. He didn't sort of form any friendships throughout those sort of formative years, shall we say.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, teenagers, friendships and connections are so important.
Oh, God, yeah. Absolutely.
And they really do help mould. So you kind of grow up a loner, you're probably going to stay that way.
Yeah.
A little bit. Or, I mean, he's quite different in the fact that he actually has accomplices. But again, I don't think there's genuine friendship there, if that makes sense.
Because of the kind of people they are.
Yeah. So by his teenage years, he did have quite an intense interest in paedophilia. I think he tried to keep those a secret, but his mother... No, in the documentary, she says that he was quite open about his homosexuality and things like that.
Right.
He'd bring, sort of as an adult, he'd bring people back shut the door, do their thing, and they would leave, she would say. And then she'd go on to be like, he's innocent. He tells me everything. He's innocent.
Right.
But supposedly, these kind of paedophilic, or the interest in the young boys, because he would lure them to the home sort of like with alcohol and pornography, and I think that become quite a basis of conflict for the relationship between him and his mum. So she kind of was trying to sway him to sort of date girls and things like that, and he did start dating a girl who he became engaged to. I'll talk a bit more. There's not very much about that.
Right.
But he dropped out of high school in 1966, and several neighbourhood children sort of became his first victims of molestation.
Oh, God. His
mum refused to acknowledge these acts or sort of the escalating antisocial behaviour, and she would worry that he'd be arrested. Well, yeah,
for good reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And
come on, love.
You know, the neighbourhood kids. It's like he's not even being careful about it.
Clearly not.
Do you think? Like, it's...
If they're just neighbourhood kids, he's not even, like, trying to go slightly further afield, so it might not get back and be blamed on him.
Exactly.
From my point of view, it seems like, because I don't know a lot about him, that would be, I don't care, you know?
Pretty much. That's literally what it says. It's like, oh, well, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But you can imagine sort of, like, I don't know if many kids spoke up about it, but you can imagine, like, the parents just turning up the door with pitchforks and torches and stuff like that, ready to kill him.
Yeah.
But hey ho, she did supposedly evict him from the house for reasons undisclosed, and then he did join the United States Air Force in December '66. He became engaged to this girl. Her name was Linda, and hopefully to sort of quell his interest in young boys.
Right.
During his military service, he was stationed. He went to the Vietnam War, and whilst he was there, he served 5 months of active duty in the 205th Assault Support Helicopter Unit as an aerial gunner. And later, this is what he claimed sort of instilled his misanthropic... I can't say the word. What is it? Is it misanthropic? Misanthropic.
Misanthropic.
Oh my God.
I think, but I don't...
Misanthropic. Oh, that's a moment I'm having. I read books and I write stories.
Well.
Yeah, clearly. So, you know, this is what supposedly really kind of created that dislike for the human race for him.
Right, okay.
He is known to have risked his own life for a wounded airman whilst under enemy fire, and for that he did receive a medal in recognition.
Oh, wow.
For this bravery. Whilst he was in Vietnam, though, he did have a number of homosexual encounters, and he confessed later to sexually assaulting 2 soldiers under his command at gunpoint.
For crying out loud.
Like, he is just relentless.
And that's the thing, you know, not even just the time, because it's not just that time, but things like this might come out later, but at the time, some of the people might not want to talk about it, might not want to come up with, you know, and say, this happened to me.
So there was such a thing, I don't know if it was around at the time, as the gay panic defence. So it was basically a case of, you know, if you felt someone was sort of coming on to you and you retaliated in some way, you could use that as a defence.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a thing at that time, but you can imagine perhaps, you know, soldiers in the army, you know, back then being gay was frowned upon. That they perhaps didn't want it turned around and him, because it would be his word against theirs. Oh, they came on to me. Yeah. He might try and use that gay panic defence. They wouldn't be believed, that kind of thing.
He was their superior, wasn't he? So
yeah. Exactly. So
Gosh.
it was like a shit. What do we do?
It's just so awful because, you know, it's very conflicting because he obviously has had this awful childhood, but then he's doing these awful things. So it's just like, oh.
Yeah, like, you can feel sorry for the child.
Yeah.
And, you know, in that situation, if you saw a kiddie like that, you pick them up and be like, right, I'm taking you to safety.
Yeah.
Because those kinds of things it's been shown that quite often people who then become murderers, serial killers, rapists, all of those things, more often than not, have had a difficult childhood. So you want to hope that you can then change that for them.
Yeah.
And it just seems like he's not, like, then going into his adolescent years, he had no friends, nothing like that. He's obviously at this point then had that sort of deep-rooted need for sexual contact with younger boys. Again, that could be from how he was treated at the orphanage, how he was treated at juvie, you know, all of that kind of abuse and stuff. Because the orphanage as well, it wasn't just the sexual abuse. They were like, they would like submerge in ice water for like punishments and things like that. It was torturous for him. So he had a terrible start.
Yeah.
A real terrible start. And, you know, I'm not saying, you know, so therefore it's not his fault.
No, of course not.
Because everyone has a choice.
Yeah.
And ultimately it comes down to choice. You know what is wrong or right.
Yeah.
Unless you don't have capacity.
Yeah.
But it's very rare that someone is genuinely insane.
Yeah.
So, I've lost my place. There we go. So, yeah, he assaulted 2 soldiers under his command at gunpoint. He served nearly 3 years before receiving an honourable discharge on October the 25th, 1968, at age 21. When he returned home, he discovered that that Linda had, they broke up.
Right.
And William returned to Downey to live with his parents. After his military service, several family members did note differences in his behaviour, but I'm not quite sure what types of behaviour they were.
Right.
He didn't start off killing immediately, but he did, you know, it snowballed very quickly. So his first victim that wasn't murdered was a 14-year-old boy named Billy Jones. It was November 17th, 1968, and William was driving his mother's car. He spotted Billy, offered to take him home, and Bonin was asking him lots of questions about homosexuality, like was he gay, that sort of thing, and which Billy felt very uncomfortable about, so he tried to exit the vehicle. William drove him to a nearby shopping centre, handcuffed and raped him, knocked him unconscious in the process, and then dropped him off at a park. And then Billy, once he got home, he did tell his mum, and William was reported to the police. Not long after... Oh, sorry, go on.
No, it's just awful, isn't it?
It's just kind of like, okay, so you've gone from... I mean, it's violent.
Very.
And you can see sort of indications of the fact that he was not comfortable with his own sexuality.
Yeah.
Because he's a paedophile, yes, and he is clearly, you know, he has feelings for males. So he you know, he is homosexual, but he clearly is not comfortable with that and is perhaps lashing out.
See, that's what it seems like, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a psychologist. I
Neither
don't
am I.
know.
We can just surmise.
Yeah, it just kind of seems almost kind of like a pattern as you sort of go through it, especially with the escalating violence as well. So on November 26th, 17-year-old hitchhiker John Treadwell of Torrance, again, he accepted a ride with William and, right, trigger warning for this word, but William began asking him about fags and homosexuality, and then produced a handgun. Again, it kind of just, it's like it's He doesn't like the response he's getting. Like, you know, these boys are feeling quite uncomfortable in his presence and stuff. And the fact that, like, they're trying to leave and that's, you know, he doesn't like that. So then it just goes, like, from 0 to 60.
Yeah, exactly.
60, 100.
Yeah.
So he parked in a secluded area, raped John and bludgeoned him with a tire iron.
Oh, my God.
He then threatened John that he had friends who would avenge him if Treadwell told the man.
Right.
I don't know where the man comes into it of, you know, what he had done.
Yeah.
So quite quickly, he's then bringing out weapons.
Yeah.
And the violence is starting to escalate quite badly now.
Really quickly. It's like you said, it's gone from like 0 to 100 in a short space of time.
Like what? 9 days.
Gosh.
So this is all in the same year, in 1968. So December 4th, Alan Pruitt, who was 17 years old at the time, reported a man with medium-length dark hair, olive complexion, had offered him a ride and then deviated away from the highway before handcuffing him and extensively sexually assaulting him in the vehicle.
Oh, my God. So these guys weren't killed?
These weren't even, Oh, well, not even killed. You know, it's bad enough what's happened to them.
Oh, God, no, absolutely.
Yeah, so we haven't even got to the first murder yet.
Goodness me. It's just...
I mean, they are looking for a serial rapist at this time.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're taking the descriptions of William and know who they're looking for, essentially. January 1st, 1969... 12-year-old Lawrence Bretman was offered a ride.
12, did you say?
12.
Oh, my God.
He accepted the ride and then sort of was pleading to be let go. William Bonin began threatening him, parked and forced Bretman to perform oral sex on him, molesting and robbing him at gunpoint. He then threatened to kill the boy if he ever reported the incident.
Oh my God. What are you going to rob from a 12-year-old as well?
Oh, there's another time when he robbed someone and it is like for $6.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And that's actually really sad because if you hear where the boy was going as well.
That's the thing, it's just all so sad and tragic. I just feel so sorry for the victims. It's just, ugh.
And I mean, this shit stain is literally up there with some of the most abhorrent serial killers.
Vile.
Yeah, he's evil. January 12th. So again, he's not, I mean, he had a bit of a break, only one in December. January 12th, 18-year-old hitchhiker, I mean, it's spelt Jesus, but it's definitely Jesus.
Okay.
Monge. Well, Bonham picked him up. Again, he was asking him about homosexuality before offering him $20 to perform oral sex. When Monge attempted to exit the vehicle, Bonham physically and sexually assaulted him and was then handcuffed and raped. He stated, "I'll rip your nuts off if you don't call it."
Oh my God.
28th of January, he had a busy month. A policewoman confronted Bonin, who had a 16-year-old runaway in the car with him. This boy's name was Timothy Wilson. Noting Bonin's frantic state and similar profile to the rapist that they were all looking for, she searched and handcuffed William, and supposedly he repeatedly told her to incarcerate him before insisting he was not responsible for his actions.
Oh.
So, I mean, if that's true, he was, I suppose he knew he was a danger and he was a threat. Perhaps he knew that things were only going to get worse. The fact that, and maybe he had a bit, I'm not going to say conscience, but an awareness of what he was doing. If he did say, you need to kind of take me away and lock me up. So he was indicted on 5 counts of kidnapping, 4 counts of sodomy, 1 count of oral copulation, and 1 count of child molestation against the 5 individuals he had abducted and assaulted or attempted to assault since the previous November.
Gosh.
This is a very heavy case with so much that goes on. So, yeah. Buckle up.
I'll be interested to hear, obviously with the time and things like that, I don't know how much it goes into it, but if there's any like mental health diagnosis at the end of it. And
funny enough, I'm about to go into that.
Oh really?
Yeah. You got a little bit ahead of me there.
Sorry,
Helen.
doll. That's what I always go to, and I just think, you know, the fact that you said about him saying to the police officer, take me away, makes me wonder if he had developed some sort of dissociative personality disorder to cope with all the abuse from when he was younger.
It's really interesting that you say that, actually.
It's almost fragmented his mind, so he's still got that kind of good side that's going, put me away.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously the other kind of broken parts that are sort of bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting.
So in the March after he was arrested, he underwent 2 psychiatric examinations, determined to be a sexual psychopath who had little control over his impulses and showed signs of depression and inappropriate emotional responses. He did deny any childhood abuse, but then sort of later on he did confess to being molested at age 8, and it was suspected that he was molested on various occasions between the ages of 9 and 12 years old. In the May, he recounted to a probation officer his recent separation, so from the engagement, and he admitted his guilt in molesting male youths. But he did supposedly express a desire to start a family and become a pilot after he was released. His Vietnam service, it was said, contributed to his criminal behaviour, and that this kind of sort of impacted his abilities to seduce female women, female partners.
Right.
Like upon his return, it was said that he was seriously lacking insight and responsibility for his crimes committed since his childhood. He pleaded guilty to molestation and forced oral copulation and was sentenced to the Atascadero State Hospital in June 1969 as a mentally disordered sex offender.
Oh.
Which, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Yep.
I can see that. You know, it's the whole, I'm doing these things, but take me away.
Yeah.
It's like, it is like kind of like a split personality almost.
Yeah, that's kind of what it... And the thing is, it's difficult because diagnoses back then versus now, things change all the time. So what...
And new ones are discovered as well. Yeah.
So what they're saying he had as a mental illness back then actually might have been looked at as something different in our sort of standards these days.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that I find that side of it fascinating.
He was, so it did say that he attended a lot of sort of group therapy sessions whilst he was, oh wait, no, I've skipped a bit. I do apologise, I've skipped quite a bit. Let's go back to the state hospital. So he arrived there on June 17th in 1969. He had a lot of sort of psychiatric examinations which revealed he possessed an IQ of 121. I think about standard is around 100.
Okay.
So he was a very smart man. He displayed traits of manic depression, sexual sadism disorder, and antisocial personality disorder. There we go.
Okay.
So you hit it right on the head, like that. Yeah. A physical examination revealed that he had extensive scarring on his head and his buttocks, which he supposedly had no memory of. Like how he got them, but it's quite likely that he got them in the orphanage.
Yeah,
when he was there. So him sort of not recollecting and stuff seems to be, the experts think that perhaps he was repressing those memories.
Yeah.
Of like sort of the real sort of extreme aspects of the abuse that he had suffered at the hands of his father, you know, the people in charge at the orphanage, at juvie, like, you know, essentially a sexual toy for the other boys there, that sort of thing. They noted the psychological and emotional implications of his unhealthy relationship with his mother. Apparently he is quite emotionally dependent on her, which you can kind of see, because if you've been neglected and all you want is that love, you're going to keep trying. But then, you know, perhaps that was why he was so supposedly so honest and told her about his sort of feelings towards younger boys.
Yeah, just trying to get a reaction out of her, perhaps, just to show some emotion, some attention, even if it is bad.
Could be. I think the physical abuse he had received from his father created frontal lobe damage as well.
Oh.
So that, coupled with the neglect, had obviously quite an effect on his developing brain. Specifically, connections in the right hemisphere, which impaired his ability to connect socially, emotionally, and to control violent impulses, reactions, and behaviours.
Oh my God, it's a perfect storm, isn't it?
He has all of the ingredients for a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely.
And this is where you can kind of, again, I know I've said it so many times, but you can see how nurture could trump nature almost.
Yeah.
In that argument.
Yeah. In this case, yeah. Definitely.
I'm not saying that is the case for everyone. You know, some people, nature does come into play. Sometimes but it just looks like there's just an amalgamation of so much shit that happened to him that has kind of led to this point.
Yeah.
And then leads further.
Yeah, definitely.
Unfortunately.
God.
So going back to the bit that I started before I missed a load out, he attended group therapy sessions, but he was defensive and aggressive toward other patients. He refused to acknowledge his homosexuality, but did divulge his intentions to eliminate any future victims of his sexual assaults if he deemed it necessary.
Oh, okay.
He was classified as an extreme sociopath with a high probability of relapse under periods of psychotic breakdown.
So, I mean, I'm presuming at some point he gets out or is let out, but all this, you'd be like, okay, let's just keep him.
That dude needs
somewhere
some help.
Safe. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like he's even saying, I'm gonna kill them next time.
Basically,
literally telling them what he's gonna do.
And now he gets to walk the fucking streets without a leash. Brilliant, isn't it? Well, I mean, let's face it. Law enforcement now is probably a lot better than what it was. You know, errors are still made, but Jesus Christ, the fuck ups, man.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds like a big fuck up.
It is insane, like how, and it, you know, it's stupid. So his extremely disturbed methods of social interaction with others were viewed as hindering his own treatment. Well, you need to work on those then as well.
Yeah.
The experts.
Yeah.
Like, yes, he needs to put in the work as well, but why are they not being addressed?
Yeah.
He was kind of willing to participate in programs and was generally considered non-violent, helpful and conscientious by staff, which I don't see how that correlates with his defensive and aggressive attitude towards patients.
Maybe it's kind of like an authoritative thing, and you know, the fact all he wanted from his mum was attention when he was younger. You know, perhaps that has kind of like almost followed him, so he sees these people who are sort of kind of in charge. Maybe he respects them more on a subconscious level. I don't know. I am not a psychiatrist, but that sounds...
You're my psychiatrist.
I am sometimes my own. And you
sometimes I just need expert advice, and I'm like, Helen, no, what we call it, moron support.
But that's kind of what it, just from an outsider's point of view, dissecting it, it seems like maybe that's why he was sort of more receptive and possibly nicer to the people who were in charge rather than the other patients.
I mean, it could be.
I don't know.
It could also be just manipulation.
Or just downright nasty manipulation.
Telling them what they want to hear, trying to get out, that sort of thing. One psychiatrist wrote of him that he wanted to straighten himself out but doesn't know how to go about it. Right. So again, that when you were talking about sort of like the dissociation and stuff, like I need to be put away so that I don't do these things, but I can't help but do these things. Yeah. So having those sort of moments of disassociation, and then realising, but he has still the awareness of what he's doing is wrong.
Yeah, but it just all sounds very fragmented.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
He needed a lot of professional help and should never have been let out at all. But in 1971... Bonner was sent to the California Medical Facility, having been declared unsuitable for further treatment due to repeated sexual engagement with inmates, 2 of whom were mentally challenged.
Oh my God. So they said he couldn't have any more treatment because he was molesting patients?
Yeah.
Well, then just put him in a room by himself and treat him in there so we can't get to the other patients. Don't just let him out.
Things weren't quite...
That makes
no
no sense.
Backwards, weren't they?
That's literally backwards.
Yeah. Oh, good Lord. So as well as alienating and irritating fellow patients, which resulted in him supposedly being beaten on several occasions, he was subject to further psychiatric examination, which dealt with his hostility towards his father and older brother. So it was also sort of determined that his sexual behaviours were compulsive in response to stress.
Okay.
Imagine that. How are you feeling today? Stressed. What are you going to do about it? I'm just going to go out and beat the shit out of people and rape them.
I mean...
No, mate, don't work.
No. I'm stressed all my life and I don't do that.
Born stressed.
I'm pretty sure I was
came out
stressed.
the womb like...
Yeah. That's not acceptable.
And... on June the 11th, 1974, he was released from prison after doctors concluded he was no longer a danger to the health and safety of others.
Several people had to make that decision, not just one moron, many.
Yeah, and that's the thing, it goes through, it's not like, it's almost like he was just whoever released him was handed a document and they were like, oh, can you sign this? Yeah, without reading it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you...
Really sorry, the dogs are going off on one tonight. I don't know what that's about.
They're very chatty.
I know.
To be fair, though, I think Reggie's barking because he's like, Allie hasn't spent enough time with me.
Exactly.
I've not seen her for ages and I just want to be with her.
So they let him out.
But they let
him out.
After all of that, after what was said, after, what he's been diagnosed with, what he's threatened, essentially.
And then he's continued offending whilst he's supposed to be in treatment. So it's continued whilst he's supposed to be in a...
Man cannot be fixed.
No. And other people are supposed to be in a safe environment as well. And just, what the actual fuck?
Yeah. I mean, at that time you had really sort of controversial treatments like EST that were, probably created more damage than, they created more damage than helped, really. Yeah. So, and in this facility you've got people like sort of as young as 14 going through things like that. It was trying to be like conversion therapy.
Yeah.
So it's fucking you up even more. And the man doesn't need any more fucking up than he already is.
No, it just seems like they've just gone, yeah, he's a fucking lunatic. I just let him out though. That's literally how
Off
it's...
your pop.
Yeah, see you later. You can go now. See what happens. What the actual...
Good luck. Oh.
And
all right.
He even told them, I'm going to kill next time.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not the only fuck up. Right. So in that July, just after he was released, he went to Hollywood with the intentions of not becoming an actor, sort of to rent an apartment and try and sort of mingle within the gay community. But his poor social skills kind of let him down, and he went back to his parents' house in Downey. After that, he began working as a truck driver for a Montebello delivery firm called Dependable Drive Away in December of 1974. Now, this next person is the last victim of his that comes out of this alive. Oh, gosh. So after that, we then hit the murders. There's a lot about this victim, actually. So September the 8th, which was the last day of summer in 1975, 14-year-old David Allen McVicker was hitchhiking home from a friend's house in Garden Grove. McVicker accepted William's offer to drive him back to his parents' home in Huntington Beach. But shortly after he got into the car, William started asking questions about whether he'd engaged in homosexuality, just being really inappropriate with him, that sort of thing. McVicker said that he hadn't and asked to leave the vehicle, but Bonin then sped up. So he accelerated, and then when McVicker attempted to leave, William produced a handgun and drove him to a deserted field. Bonin ordered him to undress and then beat and raped him. He then tried to strangle him with the boy's own t-shirt and a tire iron. So he would kind of like thread it through the arms of the t-shirt and twist it. Yeah. So get it tighter. McVicker pleaded for his life. And when he did that, Bonin immediately stopped and apologised before reverting to casual conversation. And when he drove McVicker home, so he took him home, he said to him, "You know what, you're an all right guy. I was going to kill you, but I want to come back for you and use you again."
Oh my God, that's so terrifying.
David has actually suffered with this for like all his life since this. God. He felt dirty and he felt ashamed. He told his best friend what happened. His mum didn't want to hear the details. School, he stopped caring about school. He quit that same year. He did try to continue education, like high school education, I suppose, to get like their GED or something like that. Yeah. But he never received a diploma.
Oh, bless him.
And spoiler alert, Bonin is executed.
Oh, good.
McVicker. So as that was approaching, David McVicker said that the nightmares replaying the rape sort of plagued him at that time. Gosh. Yeah. He said that sometimes I wake myself up yelling. Imagine going to sleep and getting raped 10 to 12 times a night.
Oh my God.
Based on his testimony, so David McVicker's testimony, Bonin was convicted of lewd and lascivious conduct and sent back to prison. And he served about 3 years behind bars.
What? 3 years?
3 years. Oh my God. So, despite being convicted of kidnapping and 2 counts of sodomy with a child in 1968, being diagnosed as a sexual predator and demonstrating criminal sexual conduct 7 years later, Bonin was released by the California prison system in 1978.
I mean, I don't know. If it was everybody there drunk and just making really stupid decisions.
And it isn't long after that the murders start happening either. It's probably about half a year. Oh my God. There's all this evidence That suggests
And they
don't
had-
let the fucker
They
out.
had him. They had him
Yeah.
incarcerated. And then went, nah, you're all right.
You're
Carry
fine.
on. Fuck you know.
On your way, pal.
See you later, mate.
Yeah. He did plead guilty to both charges, and on December 31st in 1975, he was sentenced to serve between 1 and 15 years imprisonment at the California Men's Facility in San Luis Obispo. That sounds right.
Yeah, why not?
In 1977, Bonham was subjected to further psychiatric examination. And it was indicated his sexual involvement with young boys related to his mother's micromanagement of his life. But I'm like, she neglected him.
How can she neglect someone and then micromanage them at the same time?
Again, some of this information I've got, I think, I'm not quite sure if it is him or someone else. But I think, do you know what, though? I think, it could be because she was trying to, get him to date girls.
Yeah, so she's gone from one extreme to the next.
Encouraging him to join the Air Force.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So,
yeah,
and also kind of letting him get away with things because it's like, she's aware of what he's doing, but he's innocent. Well, not quite. He just kind of turned a blind eye to it because you didn't want to accept the fact that your son's a fucking paedophile.
What's she called?
Alice.
Oh, and I love that name as well. Alice.
Fuck's sake, Alice.
Fucking hell, Alice.
It's almost kind of like, not enabling, but you're along those lines.
I was going to say, along those lines.
Yeah. In March of 1978, his father suffered a stroke, which is attributed to his alcohol addiction. Mm-hmm. And he was hospitalised at the Long Beach Veterans Administration Hospital, which is actually where his mother worked.
Really?
Oh no!
Because it's medication time. Sorry, that goes on whether I've got my phone on or off. Apologies, that was medication time for the dog.
This is new territory for us. We've never done sort of an evening recording, so we're doing all right.
Sorry about that, guys. Both the dogs have just come in now. It's just like chaos.
Oh, hello. Hello. Aren't you just smiling at me? Hi. I didn't think Molly came upstairs.
This is the first time she's come up by herself.
Oh, Pudding. Hi.
Hey, bud.
You never stop smiling for me, do you? I love that. My familia. Right. No, it's fine. So in prison, Bonham completed a mathematics course and trained as a machinist in order to secure employment. He showed significant progress in individual therapy sessions and was released from detention on October the 11th with 18 months supervised probation.
Yes, he may have been good at maths, but don't release him.
Maths does not make you
Last time
a
you
good
released
person.
him, he was naughty again, wasn't he?
Naughty.
It's going to happen again, I feel like.
He's not the Messiah, he's a very naughty boy.
Very naughty boy. Oh, God.
Yeah, I know. It's just kind of, it's baffling. You kind of stop having words for it, really. So, yeah. All of this, and it's like, no, off you trot.
Carry on, mate.
Yeah, you go live your life.
Is that where we're going to leave this?
Not quite yet.
Oh, right.
We've got a little bit longer, and then I'm going to stop before we get to the murders.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll start part 2 of the murders.
Alrighty.
So, do you know what? I think every time we have a chat, I then go, so. I'm just repeating myself.
Oh, I do that as well. And I've noticed
Oh, God.
through every podcast, no, it's not you, it's me, I say exactly a lot. So if anybody ever wants to play a drinking game with our podcast,
I'll be so.
you be so.
You're exactly.
I'm exactly. You'll be K-Lied by the end of one of our episodes.
We sound like a really shit superhero duo. It's so and exactly. What are they going to do? Nothing.
Help you get drunk, okay?
Well, Nobody needs help for that. On November the 1st, Bonin moved into an apartment in the Kingswood Village complex, approximately 1 mile from his parents' house. He became acquainted with his 43-year-old neighbour, Everett Scott Fraser, and Bonin became a regular attendee at Fraser's parties where young men, drugs and alcohol were flowing freely. Fraser considered Bonin a respectful and placid individual and frequently introduced Bonin to his young male acquaintances. The two also talked about their homosexuality. So he's admitting it to someone finally. So a quote from Bonin describing his acquaintance with Vernon Butts to a psychologist by the name of Vonda Pelto. I met Vernon Butts and I admired him. He had it all together. Everybody liked him. It was cool having him like me. Made me feel real important. I never had no friends. Sounds like me when I talk.
Or me, sometimes when I talk.
So through his frequent attendance at Fraser's parties, Bonin became acquainted with 21-year-old Vernon Robert Butts and 18-year-old Gregory Matthews Miley. When Butts was 9 years old, his father died. And even sort of before then and after, he came from a broken home, essentially. He didn't have a great upbringing. I didn't read too much into that. He was described as shy and easily led by others. He had attempted suicide on 3 occasions before he met William Bonin. And at the time of the sort of initial meeting with him, Butts had developed a local reputation as an eccentric figure who had recently been fired from his employment as a magic store clerk due to his unkempt appearance and increasingly strange and unpredictable behaviour. He was bisexual and frequently abused drugs and alcohol. This guy looks like a fucking troglodyte.
Can we find a picture of him?
Honestly, cave dweller.
What was his name?
Vernon Butts.
Wow.
He even sounds like a fucking cave dweller. The guy looks like a fucking troglodyte.
Yeah.
He just looks... If you were to stereotype a nonce...
Yeah.
That man's it.
Yeah.
Just fucking weird, creepy. Do you know what? I kind of see it like, you know, the kind of old school thought of like an Undertaker being like really skinny, skeletal, like pale and just weird looking.
that
and like
guy.
Yeah, him.
That
all
dude.
over.
Yeah.
He's just fucking painted in that. Yeah. You know, doesn't see sunlight. Yes, master. Almost.
Yeah, it looks like he needs a good meal.
And wash.
Yes.
To me, he looks unwashed.
Dinner and a bath, mate.
Yeah. Yeah, not a fan. He was a drifter who had been in and out of penal institutions and held an extensive criminal record for offences such as burglary and arson. I'm surprised you haven't got one for arson.
I know. I feel like that situation could have gone one or two ways. Just faded out, which it kind of did, or could have become a full-blown arsonist.
You and
which
Richard
I'm not.
together.
I'm not.
No. But you do have, you know, the building blocks are there.
Also, I'm a fire sign. So
Yes, you are actually, aren't you?
just gonna
And I'm water.
planets. Oh.
That's why we balance each other out.
Yes.
What are you? You're a water sign. Yeah. Are 2 waters supposed to be all right together?
I don't see why not.
But I would pincer you. He's a Pisces. Obviously not. You're such a dick. He was later speculated to have developed a fascination with sadistic homosexual activity whilst he was incarcerated. He claimed to have both been sort of absolutely bowled over, but also terrified of William Bonin, who Butts claimed held a kind of hypnotic control over him. but Bonin held Butts in high regard for his social popularity, dominance, and intelligence. I mean, I'm looking at that dude and I'm thinking, you're none of those things. Like, in those kind of circles where you're all deviants,
Yeah.
then perhaps, but like if you were to present him to, you know, stand-up citizens,
Yeah, you'd just be like, that guy's
no,
wrong,
mate.
isn't he?
Yeah. So supposedly both Butts and Bonin lived sort of externally as heterosexuals, but I've read that they became lovers, and that Butts also held mystery parties in which people would search for various murder artefacts in the city of Downey, such as a hairpin or ice pick. And so, as a result, they would quite frequently discuss the subject of death. That bit's from Wikipedia, so I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Never actually rely on Wikipedia. Like I said, I cross-reference everything I read on there with this. You know, it's not like I don't go out to look at Wikipedia for research, but there was just so much out there. I was like, right, what's condensed?
Yeah.
Now, Gregory Miley, he was an illiterate high school dropout from Texas. His IQ was 56. So he was not a smart man.
No.
Probably incredibly naive. He was raised in Lakewood, and his mother had a series of dysfunctional marriages and also severely neglected Gregory. Miley viewed Bonin as something of a father figure, and he often spent time with Bonin in exchange for a sexual relationship. So,
I mean, it just sounds like they're sort of preying on the fact that he's a little bit less intelligent than everybody else.
Yeah, this guy could be very easily manipulated, I think. And, you know, if he's been striving for love all his life and he's finding someone that seems like he's taking care of him or, you know, paying him attention and is interested in him, you know, he's not going to correlate with anything, you know, manipulation or anything like that. Like, he's not going to know what's going on. So those are our main players. There are a couple of others that do come into it.
Okay.
But for now, that's where I'm going to leave you.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So when we come back for part 2, we are going to go into the murders. They are very heavy. More so than what we've gone through already.
Okay.
You know, people start losing their lives. Obviously, things get a bit more violent.
Jeez.
And we're uncovering a lot of evil.
God. Well, thank you for the first part of absolute depravity.
You're more than welcome. It's, you know,
look forward to the next part of even more terrifying tales of depravity.
You know, I'm not happy unless there's depravity involved. No, that's a lie. I'm happy when it's weird.
Yeah, we like weird. Weird, not evil.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think
very interesting.
Thank you.
Very interesting. Very up and down. Yeah, like
I started off with, oh, poor boy, you know, poor boy.
Yeah.
Doesn't start off well, and then we get to the point of now, oh, fuck me, this man needs to be handcuffed to a radiator and never let out, wrapping him in a straitjacket.
Okay, well, so we can random fact it up.
Random fact it up.
Have you got
I've got one for both of us.
Oh!
So we're both covered.
Go for it.
So on July the 1st, it marked the anniversary of when our great-grandfather, who, this man is phenomenal. Our great-grandfather was a chief inspector with the Austrian police. His name was Franz. And he set up a resistance party against the Nazis. Now, sadly, he was executed for this, and July the 1st was the anniversary for that. But we are very proud to have such a wonderful man within the family. And yes, Nana would say that he was a wonderful man as well. she didn't talk a lot about it. I think it just really affected
Really
her.
upset
But
her, didn't it?
yeah, so thank you very much, Franz.
A hero.
A hero. We're not all bad in the family.
No, Franz was a good one.
Yeah. So that's our joint interesting fact.
Thank you for covering me on that.
You're welcome. I expect it back. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Gibbs has got one. So he's currently 3.5 weeks into quitting smoking.
He's doing so well, and I'm so proud. Your
Very
parents definitely
impressed.
don't listen to this, do they? Because your parents don't know that you smoke. Or had. Oh, I had to explain what a podcast was.
I think you're safe.
To be honest with you, yeah, I think this is a bit beyond them. They're wonderful people. I absolutely love my in-laws, which is quite rare to say.
Yeah, you're very lucky.
I am so lucky. They are the best in-laws in the world.
I don't have any in-laws. I don't even have a law.
There's the general law that you have to adhere to.
Yeah, but I don't have like a...
And there's also Murphy's Law, which is sod law.
Murphy's Law, yeah.
Which
no, but I don't
currently-
have a... What? In-law.
You don't have an in-law? You don't have any in-laws?
I don't have any in-laws because I don't have a person to have in-laws with.
No, that's
You
true.
know, I'm not dating anyone at the minute.
I mean, you call Mark brother.
Yeah,
So-
he's my bro from another mother.
Yeah, so it's not quite...
That's
yeah.
not the same. Oh, yeah.
That I'm not saying.
Well,
There might be some people that may take offence that I wouldn't, because, you know, trauma makes me funny. But, just like, yeah.
I feel flabbergasted by all of this. It is a very interesting case, and the first thing I go to is the whole mental health side of things.
Yeah.
I find it so interesting, and I will, because I don't know the case. I am in a macabre way looking forward to the rest of the story. So thank you very much, Allie.
No, you're more than welcome.
Massive thank you to Mark, Park Lane Studios, for all the sound, for the video, the lights,
Although the camera's just died.
all the things. It makes us sound an awful lot more respectable and professional than we really are.
You can hear my fuck-ups much more crisp.
Well, the dog's just coming in and barking, and I think Molly dragged a bum on the rug, and it was all happening.
Did she carpet shuffle?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed it. Carpet shuffle is hilarious.
There we go. If you've got any spooky stories, and actually I was specifically also asking for rando Nautica stories.
Yeah.
Because I am a little bit obsessed with the whole premise of that. So if you do have any, and they can be non-car related, because we can talk about them in our spooky chats.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you've got any car related weirdness to tell us, go right ahead.
I definitely know we've got some emails we need to read.
Yes, so that's carsofthemacabre@gmail.com.
You can give us a follow over at Instagram, on Instagram at Cars of the Macabre.
And
Watch us on the YouTube.
yeah, watch us on YouTube, listen to all the things, subscribe, like,
Download.
all of it. Thank you very much.
All of the above. Thank you, please.
Okay.
All right, then.
Until next time.
Stay spooky, bitches.
Oh, we fucked that right up. Leave it
Shall we
in.
do it again?
Leave it in.